On this week's episode, we discuss Night of Champions, Roman Reigns' emergency surgery, the Wyatt's missing in action, and the WWE 2K15 trailer. All of this and more now on Byte That. Hello everybody and welcome to episode 57 of Byte That, the semi-somewhat maybe international professional wrestling podcast where we bring you the ups and downs of that which we love, which is playing Minecraft during Raw. I am Ryan McNulty. I come from Boston, Massachusetts. The fact that you're hearing my voice means indeed that Juan is out for the week. He will be back next week. But of course, joining me as always from Double F, Manitoba, Canada, Mr. Keith Poshik. How you doing, man?
Ryan, I built the sickest machine during Raw. You just put iron into it, and then it breaks it down, then it re-smelts it, and it's like an automatic iron machine. It's really awesome.
Yes, we've been having a lot of fun with Minecraft, but of course, we've also been watching wrestling, and there's been plenty of wrestling going on. First of all, which is Night of Champions. So that was this weekend. And overall, what'd you think of the show, Keith?
It was an show. I came out of SummerSlam kind of excited, but this one not so much. I mean, there was a couple of good matches and it was a solid show, but there's not really a standout moment.
I mean, if there was a standout moment, it happened at the end of the show, which of course we'll get to. But I agree, this was like that kind of mad, just, B-level pay-per-view, which usually Night of Champions kind of is that anyway. But like we talked about last week, this is the end of the line of that 6-month commitment. Yes, it's already been 6 months with the WWE Network. And this is sort of their pay-per-view before renewals kind of kick in. So I think a lot of us expected more, that they should have went above and beyond. And the only thing out of the ordinary was that we got an appearance from Brock Lesnar, who, hasn't shown up to Night of Champions before. But of course, he's the champion, got to defend the title.
I don't think he's ever been on a Night of Champions, from back in the day.
Because I don't even think there was a Night of Champions back in his first run. So... since Night of Champions came around, this is obviously Brock's first appearance. And overall the show, it wasn't bad, but it wasn't great. So it just kind of is that middle of the road show.
Night of Champions was a series of unfortunate moments, and we'll probably go through them all in this episode, but it was just one thing that was either mediocre or unfortunate happening one
What's
after another.
What's that movie, that series of unfortunate events?
Yeah, something like that. That was basically Series of Unfortunate Events, Night of Champions edition.
Okay, so I think a positive to take away from this show, I want to jump into the Divas match first. I think for this triple threat match was pretty good.
Yeah.
I think Nikki Bella was a surprisingly good performer in this match. I thought this overall it was pretty good.
Yeah, and they named her finisher the Rack Attack, which is probably better than the Rampage. It's really close, but it's a really good second place.
That's actually not new. They've been calling that.
That's the first time I've heard Rack Attack.
Yeah, it's definitely got a double meaning there that is pretty easy to figure out.
Yeah.
Nevertheless, I mean, hey, it works. It is a torture. What is it, isn't that like what Abyss used as a finisher?
She does shock treatment. That's what she does.
And it's just called Rack Attack. It works. And then, of course, they had that Tower of Doom moment. And, yeah.
How interesting is it that in a 2-week span, the main event of NXT and a Divas match both do the Tower of Doom? It's basically two ends of the spectrum doing the same spot.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure Juan sent out a tweet saying that he's kind of become almost immune to it because of the early days of TNA. and I completely agree. It's just, it's always a cool move to see, but it's happened so much that you almost become numb to it. It always does stand out, though, in a Divas match. Anytime they kind of pull off a high spot that's that you don't see with divas, which is pretty much any high spot in general. It is a little more impressive.
It's because we were numbed to divas matches for so many years. Like every week on Raw, it would be, oh, here comes Beth Phoenix and Kelly Kelly. One of them wins with a very mediocre move, like a clothesline. The funnest thing about divas matches back then were they could end with any move. You never knew how they were going to end because they could just hit a clothesline or anything, and then it would just be 1, 2, 3 over.
I mean, that for the longest time was pretty much just the epitome of unpredictable, which is weird. The Divas division really was unpredictable the longest time. With my friends, a couple years ago, we did a little predictions game for all the pay-per-views, and the hardest one to predict always was the Divas match because it was so fickle that you could just see them going any direction. Oh, we'll have them win. Oh, we'll have this diva win. So you never really knew it was going to happen. But I wouldn't even say that was in a good way.
No.
But anyway, these matches we've definitely seen with, Paige and AJ seem to be stepping their game up with these matches, trying to pull off some spots like at SummerSlam, AJ was jumping off the top rope to the outside. And I give credit to Nikki Bella for also taking that bump in this pay-per-view match. She took the bump off the apron onto the ground. So overall, one of the more solid matches on the card. I want to move on to
How's that for a saying? The Divas match was one of the more solid matches on the card. Night of Champions, everybody.
Sort of the theme of the show was I wouldn't actually call any match outright bad, though, on the show.
It wasn't bad. It was just a series of unfortunate events, to go back to that saying.
Yes.
Speaking of...
let's jump into one of those unfortunate events, which is actually associated with one of the best things going on the show right now, and that was the Intercontinental title match between Dolph Ziggler and in the Miz. And Keith, I'm gonna give you the floor because I know you got some words.
It was a great match. I would say it's one of the best matches of the night, but they had to bring out Florida Georgia Line and basically, how do you say that? Fellatiate? That's the word. Fellatiate Florida Georgia Line through that whole match. When they came out, they didn't even know what they were coming to hype. They're like, yeah, we're going to do that troop thing in December. Oh, you mean tribute to the troops? Yeah, that one. Then they just kept talking about Florida Georgia Line the whole match. Well, Dolph Ziggler and The Miz are actually having a really good match in the ring, but no, Florida Georgia Line's over here. So let's talk about them. It's a travesty. It was a wrestling travesty.
It's one of those 1 step forward, 2 steps back type of situations. For a lot of the time on this podcast, we've complained about there not being meaningful mid-card feuds. And this IC title match feud has been a complete step in the right direction. And I agree. It's like you gave it the importance, you gave it a great match with 2 great competitors, and then you bring out Florida Georgia Line, who I personally dislike. I have to hear a lot of country music at work. They're one of them. All their songs are trash. I'm sorry. Anyone who enjoys it,
but
not
Ryan,
my thing.
You make me want to roll my windows down and cruise.
Yes. Thank you for that. They were amazing at Raw Country too, because that was such an amazing show.
Yeah.
So anyway, they bring out Florida Georgia Line, and they really just kind of water down this match and take away its importance. So, yeah, that was pretty pointless for them to do. I know they want to plug their troop thing because they even know the name of it.
Exactly.
Anyway, both of us obviously didn't care for that too much. So let's move on to the tag team title match. There were quite a few title changes. We didn't even mention the fact that, of course, AJ won her Intercontinental title back.
Actually, she won the Divas title back.
I'm sorry. I wanted to go through all the title changes.
And you screwed up the first one. Yeah. Good job.
Congratulations, AJ, for being the second woman to become Intercontinental champion.
You're up there with China. Let's see where that gets you.
I'm sure she would love to get to that point someday. Maybe not body type wise, but
and everybody would like one night in AJ.
Anyway. The Miz happened to win the Intercontinental Championship back, of course. We all know on Monday Night Raw that changed once again. But now, finally getting back to the tag team title match. The Usos and the Dust Brothers, Goldust and Stardust. What'd you think of this match?
Fun fact, I'm the only one that called it right, just because I like rubbing that in y'all's faces, even though half of y'all aren't here today. But I called it, and I think it makes sense for Gold and Stardust to pick up the win, because now they have their quote-unquote cosmic key, and then eventually they'll lose it, they'll go into a feud with each other, and yeah.
Good points, definitely. Yeah, we always get a great performance out of the Usos. They always put on great pay-per-view matches. They worked well with the, Goldust and Stardust. So it was great to see a surprising win, because I definitely didn't see that coming.
They're easily the best tag team in the WWE, because if you think about all the great tag matches from the last couple of years, there's always a common theme. It's either the Shield versus the Usos, or Gold and Stardust versus the Usos, the Wyatt family versus the Usos. So it kind of just makes me excited for when someone like, let's say, the Ascension comes up and then they fight the Usos and all those sexy potential matches.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, they are without a doubt the best tag team workers. So, they're always pulling off great matches. They're always plenty of outside dives, and they don't get old. They know how to keep things fresh and exciting.
Yeah.
So one quick thing I wanted to note about Chris Jericho versus Randy Orton. Solid match. My only correction to our whole theme last week being that we really thought with Chris Jericho saying last hurrah that this was going to be somehow his last match, or that they were going to build it up to be something like that. Of course, this was not the case at all. It really looks like, according to his podcast, he'll be back at some point. I think he is done with his current run now, but it's by no means his last match.
Jericho will never retire. Let's be real here.
Yes, and we actually do want to touch on Chris Jericho as well as a few other names a little bit later on the show.
So stay tuned.
Yes, but I do want to jump right to the main event of Night of Champions. We got Brock Lesnar versus John Cena, and with quite a crazy ending. But what did you think of the match itself?
The match itself was good. It's what you expect from Brock Lesnar and John Cena, I guess. John Cena got a little more offense. It wasn't just a stomping this time, but the ending I was not a fan of at all.
Yes, the ending, before I get to that, what about the fact that Brock Lesnar kicked out of the AA after one? Has anyone kicked out of a finisher
great.
after one before?
It's maybe, but definitely not the AA. That's crazy.
Yeah, they definitely worked this interesting. There was a lot of callback to the SummerSlam match. It looked a lot of times like it was going to be the same type of situation. But overall, they did a good job of kind of evoking the feeling that, is Cena just going to get pummeled again? But then they had glimpses of hope for Cena. So it was more evenly matched. I think they really worked it well. The commentary really flubbed up with the ending before we even get to what actually happened.
Yeah.
Where they kept saying, Brock Lesnar was going to tap. When it's like, are you reading notes, or are you actually watching the match?
Yeah, that was the biggest problem with the ending, in my opinion, because you're supposed to build Brock as this big monster, this undefeatable thing, but even the heel commentator, JBL, was like, I think he was going to tap. It doesn't, that don't make no sense.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, something tells me that there was something in their notes where the interruption in the match was supposed to happen earlier during the STF or something like that. So they were just going along with their notes saying, Brock was supposed to tap, Brock was supposed to tap, when he was in a pin that was interrupted by Seth Rollins.
But why would they even say that Brock was about to tap? It's kind of the opposite of what they've been building him up as.
because they wanted to leave it like John Cena almost had the win. It makes no sense. I don't know what made them think that someone said it and the other two weren't paying attention, so they just went along with it. It was just like a really bad error on their part. So anyway, we end the pay-per-view with Seth Rollins coming out, attacks John Cena, they ring the bell, John Cena wins via DQ. Then Seth Rollins delivers a, curb stomp? Blackout curb stomp, I think they call it now.
Whatever.
And is trying to cash in the Money in the Bank. And then Mr. John Cena has to come out and ruin an exciting moment. And
yeah,
we just get this DQ ending that's kind of like, well, there you go. And they end the show.
So what you're telling me right now is John Cena potentially ruined the spotlight for another young up-and-coming superstar? That hasn't happened at all this year. How could you say something like that?
In some ways, it makes sense. Obviously, John Cena's mad. His match just got interrupted where he's trying to win the championship. So he's going to take it out on Seth Rollins. It does make complete sense. So I really don't fault him for that. I just kind of like to joke around that John Cena's kind of ruining all the fun. But this was really a weak way to extend the feud and just not have Cena outright lose 2 pay-per-views in a row, which he could completely afford to do, especially when it's against the most built-up guy on the roster. He's not jobbing to Heath Slater, okay? He's losing to the guy that beat The Undertaker at WrestleMania and beat him at SummerSlam. At least just have him lose clean again. You know, have it like Cena almost had a chance to win, like they pretty much implied, and just take the pinfall loss. Don't give us these DQ finishes. Don't give us another Battleground 2012 and 2013 ending with Big Show coming out punching people and then the end of the show.
Yeah.
You know, that don't give us an ending like that, especially when you got your renewals coming up for your WWE network. I think we all kind of want a more satisfying ending. So despite that...
That's exactly what you want to tell people, that they're going to, you can subscribe to our network, but you won't get clean finishes.
Exactly. I think someone tweeted something about, you get a $9.99 ending. You get what you pay for. So overall, as we said, Night of Champions it was a middle of the road pay-per-view, C+, about there, a C+ player, maybe. All right. So I want to move on to a big story that broke this weekend. Of course, I actually did a video on it on our YouTube channel, youtube.com/ByteThatCast. Of course, we can catch all of our other videos as well. And that was Roman Reigns suffering an incarcerated hernia, which from the descriptions I read sounds pretty brutal. That is, of course, why on the pay-per-view Seth Rollins came out and announced that he had won the match because Reigns was unable to compete. So Roman Reigns, it appears to be, will be out for several months, is what WWE is stating. So Keith, what does this mean?
It's just so unfortunate. You almost feel bad for the company at large. Of course you feel bad for Reigns because he's injured, but every time they build somebody up, they just get hurt. It's just like this never-ending cycle. Daniel Bryan, Bad News Barrett, now Roman Reigns, and now Roman Reigns is out of action for multiple months. But at the same time, the floor is basically wide open now for Dean Ambrose and Seth Rollins to just be the best thing going, no questions asked.
Exactly. Yeah, it's very unfortunate with Reigns. They are building him up to be the guy. For all we know, he's supposed to be the guy that wins the championship at WrestleMania this year. And for them to lose that guy that they're building up is a huge blow. So they say several months. So obviously he should be able to come back in time for WrestleMania. But whether or not he's still going to have that spot in that time really remains to be seen. Because I think a lot of people can agree that although Reigns has that natural charisma with the way he presents himself, there were a lot of aspects where he just wasn't quite there yet. And that's fine. He needs time to grow as an individual wrestler. He's been in a group for the past 2 years, and he's really just starting to break out on his own. But now that he's missing several months of time, there's a lot of question marks about whether or not he would actually be ready for that WrestleMania spot. Daniel Bryan, who, really got his time last year, has been, wrestling for so many years and has had so much time to grow. And even with all the, the indie experience he had and his experience in WWE, it still took about a 2-year build for him to really get red hot to that point where, his, pivotal moment at WrestleMania 30. So there's no way that they could, rush that similar effect on Roman Reigns, and even the amount of time if he didn't get injured, never mind the fact that he's going to be out for several months. So who knows what this means for Reigns when he comes back. I hope to see him not miss too much of a step. Is he going to get that WrestleMania main event that we all expect him to get? Who knows? So that leaves the window wide open, as Keith said, for Dean Ambrose and Roman Reigns. And I think that was very evident on Monday Night Raw that he's sort of the guy that they want to go with now. And, luckily he came back just in time for them to have someone to build around. So obviously on Raw, there were several segments with Ambrose, and they really built the entire show around him. So he did come out in to open the show. And what did you think about his interaction with John Cena?
It was awesome. I don't know. Everything that our Dean Ambrose does is just plain awesome. He's fallen in this place between face and between heel because he didn't do the whole stereotypical, we have a common enemy, let's team up. He's just played his whole crazy character. It was like, we have the same enemy, but you're not going to get to him before me, so I'm going to beat you black and blue so you don't get the opportunity.
Yeah, exactly. I thought they played this perfectly. I like that Ambrose's character has integrity, and it stays true to its form, where he's not all buddy with John Cena just because he's another babyface. He's actually, opposed to Cena. He's not going to just be his friend just because they're both after Rollins. Exactly. So I really did appreciate that, because a lot of times they just kind of pair up the baby faces, and it doesn't matter if they've beaten the hell out of each other in the past.
I mean, we were even making the joke at the beginning of Raw. It's like, now hold on a minute, player. I smell a tag team match coming up. But no, it was the exact opposite.
Now, someone was arguing, I believe, on Squared Circle that when people were complaining, they're pairing up Cena and Ambrose, that if you look at the role Cena is playing, is there a chance that they pretty much Cena just filled into what Roman Reigns' role was supposed to be, chasing after Rollins?
Totally.
Yeah, if you think about it, it does kind of make sense. And obviously that would have worked better, that the two Shield guys would be, joining up again to go after their common enemy who betrayed them. But Cena does work here, obviously, because they had Rollins come out and interfere in the match. So they did play it well, as we said. They're not all buddy goody two shoes like Sheamus and Cena would be if they were tagging up. And Ambrose is the guy. So what did you think about Raw being kind of built around Dean Ambrose? Do you think it worked?
I think it did work, and what other choice do they have now? That's really the big question. What else could they build it around other than Seth Rollins and Dean Ambrose?
Let's build it around the bunny, of course.
Well, yeah. By the way, the bunny is Justin Gabriel. There's proof on the internet.
There is proof. There's also proof that R-Truth is Heath Slater or some other thing. Yeah, someone had a picture of some of the moves the bunny was doing They were comparing the bunny's moves to Justin Gabriel's moves, so it's very likely. It seems like he would kind of be the perfect guy who has been on TV for a while to fill that spot.
Why would he be the perfect guy to
he's the perfect
be
guy,
a man in a bunny suit?
He's the perfect guy to play the bunny until they want to reveal who it is, and then it's going to be someone completely different. But since no one's seen Justin Gabriel in like 2 years, then he's the perfect guy to just be under the suit and no one to suspect because no one's seen his moveset since 2012. So Dean Ambrose.
Hey, he's on Main Event all the time. That's not true.
Unless you watch Superstars or Saturday Morning Slam, you haven't seen him in a while.
Mm-hmm.
Let's move back to Dean Ambrose, though.
Yes. The opposite of Justin Gabriel and the Bunny.
What do you think, because we love to look so far ahead, what do you see as Ambrose's path for the next few months?
Honestly, I would just like to see Seth Rollins and Dean Ambrose continue feuding. Like, I'd like this to end up being the Hell in a Cell match. At Hell in a Cell, they beat the crap out of each other. Maybe, you know how, what was that feud? Hold on, I need to think. Yeah, I got nothing.
That is a good point, though, with Hell in a Cell. And I kind of want to move in that direction. That's obviously coming.
It was
okay, go ahead.
Basically, I want it to be what Bray Wyatt and John Cena were, where it was just like gimmick match after gimmick match and them just beating each other up. And then, yeah. Yeah.
All right, so we do have Hell in a Cell coming up as the next pay-per-view. So you bring up a very relevant match type. Now, I would be totally fine if this card only had one Hell in a Cell match, and it was Dean Ambrose versus Seth Rollins. It looks like for the first time in a long time, maybe even ever, because I haven't seen a lot of the early Hell in a Cell pay-per-views, as in the pay-per-views titled Hell in a Cell. But this may be the first one in a long time where if this is the Hell in a Cell match, we actually get a proper build-up to a Hell in a Cell match.
You want to know my tinfoil hat dream at the moment?
Let's hear it.
Brock Lesnar is not on Hell in a Cell. What they do is they pit The Authority versus Dean Ambrose and John Cena and somebody else inside a Hell in a Cell, or make it an Armageddon 6-man Hell in a Cell, and then the winner is the number one contender for Brock at Survivor Series. Think about it.
Those are actually some really good theories, and I actually really like both of them. And I think both of those types of main events would be strong enough to cover up.
That you wouldn't need Brock.
It would be strong enough to cover up for the fact that you wouldn't have a world championship match at the pay-per-view. So I really do like those theories. There's a part of me, of course, that really wants to see just a one-on-one Dean Ambrose, Seth Rollins, Hell in a Cell. But I understand the fact that they may have to do a really over-the-top main event to mask the fact that they don't have a top title match at the show. So that is a really good theory, and I actually do really like that. So we'll have to see how they shape things into the future and see where we go. And speaking of shaping the future, it is time for this week's Tweet of the Week! Tweet of
the Week! That's right, Mr. McNulty. We are going to shape the future in the form of a money shot because it's Tweet of the Week Tism. This week's Tweet of the Week is brought to you by The Nick and Brian Show at The NB Show on Twitter. The Tweet of the Week is as follows. Remember Bray Wyatt? Apparently the WWE writers don't. Hashtag Raw.
Tweet of the Week! Tweet of the Week! Thank you, Keith, for that semi-somewhat, maybe amazing Tweet of the Week. Remember to follow us at Byte That Cast and make sure to tweet at us all week long, and especially during Raw, where you could also be Tweet of the Week. Now, I do actually want to relate the Tweet of the Week to a topic, but before that, I just want to throw in a quick few plugs. Of course, subscribe to our YouTube channel if you haven't already, youtube.com/ByteThatCast, where this Thursday we have another fight night going on where me and Juan face off in WWE 2K14. And we were just talking about Hell in a Cell matches. This next match is indeed a Hell in a Cell between two of our created superstars, so you'll definitely want to check that out. So now let's move into this Bray Wyatt situation, because this is a really big oversight of WWE in the last few weeks, and that is, where the hell is Bray Wyatt?
I think we had a moment together during Night of Champions where like, wait a minute, no member of the Wyatt family is on this card. WTF.
Yeah, exactly. I think a lot of us thought, like, oh, is he going to face the Big Show or something? Are they going to, give him a promo or something? Nothing. Absolutely nothing. And since they've pretty much ended his feud with Chris Jericho, he's just kind of been floating around, and he was not on Night of Champions at all, and not on Monday Night Raw at all. Not even Luke Harper and Eric Rowan. None of them.
I think we can relate it back to a conversation we had a couple months ago / weeks. I'm not sure. But is it possible that Bray Wyatt's character is so good and so strong that the writing team just has no idea what to do with him?
It is a great point. We talked about, after feuding with Daniel Bryan, after feuding with John Cena, then Chris Jericho, where does he go? And I guess the answer is away.
Nowhere.
He goes away because he's been built so strong, although a lot of people felt he was kind of buried in the last few weeks by John Cena. But the true thing is he's feuded with such strong opponents, as such established people, that there's really no one on that level left to feud with him that's at least a babyface at this time.
So this might be too early to say this, but where did it all go wrong? Because he had that, like you said, that amazing feud with Bryan, Cena, and Jericho. But he's kind of in the same spot he was at the beginning and end of all of those feuds. He hasn't really progressed as a character.
Yeah, I agree. I think a lot of people had some concerns with the end of the John Cena feud and how things ended. And then, I mean, to call a spade here, I think the feud with Jericho was underwhelming. I think a lot of people were really hyped up for it. I was. And I just feel like it didn't quite deliver. I mean, no one was talking match of the night for any of their pay-per-view matches. I wouldn't say they were bad at all. And what was the last match they had? They had a cage match a couple weeks ago. How did it end? Mm-hmm. It ended with Bray Wyatt falling onto the floor from the door.
It was a weak finish. It was a dirty heel finish, and that was it.
That was the end. Bray Wyatt falls out off of Jericho and wins the match.
Maybe that's the answer to my question. Maybe that's that thing that just hasn't clicked, because whenever Bray Wyatt gets a win in a feud with these people, it's always a dirty win. It's never a clean 1, 2, 3. With John Cena in the cage match,
but obviously
except for Daniel Bryan,
he was at his one of his hottest points was after that,
and that was also match of the year quality.
That great match. That's when he was probably at his highest point, because after that he was going into the build-up with John Cena at WrestleMania, which was fantastic. Mm-hmm. So,
but think about it. So he like the cage match, the choir came out, and then he just kind of escaped the cage that way.
There's been a lot of strange endings to Bray Wyatt's matches, and that have definitely caused some concerns. And like you said, he falls off of Jericho or the steps or whatever and wins the match. Now, Bray Wyatt as a character, should he be happy about that finish? Wouldn't Bray Wyatt be more concerned with doing harm to Chris Jericho than to win a cage match by falling out of a door?
It's kind of the opposite of his character, because he does these promos saying, like, I'm going to hurt you, I'm going to maim you, I'm going to make sure nobody ever sees you again. And then he'll take a win where he falls on the floor.
Exactly. I mean, none of us think Bray Wyatt's the type of character who's supposed to be concerned about wins or losses, but how he wins and how he loses, I think, is very important. And it's clear that the way that it's been done has actually really hurt his character. And now it just seems like they have no idea what to do with him. Hopefully they give him something for Hell in a Cell. Give him a 6-man tag match with the Wyatt family. Have something going on. Even if you just got the Wyatt family going for the tag titles and Bray Wyatt's kind of just being the manager role, give them something, because the more time they're off TV, the more it's going to suffer. And you don't want to have all the build-up and all the credible people he's been facing be for nothing.
Exactly.
So I want to sort of transition this into one of the people that Bray was feuding with, and that was Chris Jericho. So as we were saying, pretty underwhelming that feud, even though the potential was, sky high. It could have gone anywhere. It could have been so much more. I think a lot of people would agree. So I kind of want to jump into Value Town for a moment and talk about the value of having guys like Chris Jericho and RVD come back for temporary periods of time. And is it worth it? So we'll talk about Chris Jericho first. I mean, he's a guy who's had a lot of short runs in recent memory. And this run, I think, in particular, was only a couple months. And like we said, we got sort of an underwhelming feud with Bray Wyatt. He had his match with Randy Orton. And as far as we know, he's pretty much done for the time being. So do you think WWE is really getting their value anymore by having Chris Jericho come back for these short runs?
I think the comeback boys always have a diminishing return when they do come back. Because, to use Jericho as an example, it was really hype when he made his return.
He didn't just get hype.
He didn't stay hype, obviously. So, about that.
No, that is a good point. I want to bring this to our listeners as our sort of question of the week. Has Jericho's continued returns become exactly that? Less like diminishing returns, as Keith said. Has his continued returns really just made it less and less exciting every time he shows up?
I mean, the golden boy for this right now is really Rob Van Dam. Because who cares? Is RVD even still around, or did he go
went away again? RVD's situation, I think, is even less valuable because he is showing up in 90-day stints, and that's sort of how he breaks his contract in. Well, in 90 days, no one's going to commit to you, and you can't really build yourself up as well to really put people over. So he just kind of stays in that same spot.
And plus, RVD, he's lost so much in his comebacks where is a win against RVD even really that valuable anymore? Like, would somebody like Cesaro gain anything from
Not
that?
really, because the way that RVD comes back, that's sort of the tier he is. If you ever go to Squared Circle and see the tier list that people post after every pay-per-view, there's sort of a rankings of which level a superstar is. There's like the rank of The Undertaker and Brock Lesnar, then you get a rank of Daniel Bryan and John Cena and Randy Orton, and then below that there's I can't even Sheamus,
like Dean Ambrose,
Dean
Roman
Ambrose,
Reigns.
Seth Rollins, exactly. They're in a tier where it's like if you see anyone in that tier facing each other, it could go either way for who's gonna win. But if a guy's facing a tier above, you know he's probably going to lose to that guy in the higher tier.
Mm-hmm.
So,
and RVD is damn near at the bottom of that barrel.
What I'm saying is RVD comes into a tier and he just stays there. So if RVD faces Cesaro, if either one wins, it doesn't really mean much different one way or the other. And the point is, I feel like Jericho's getting to that point too, where
totally
it's because of the way he comes back, it almost doesn't mean anything to beat Jericho anymore because he's put too many people over.
Think of Jericho around the time before he left, when he was mostly feuding for the Intercontinental title and stuff. He would just put all these people over, and then you eventually just lose value. And until he did that big dramatic character change, you're like, it's just Jericho.
Exactly. He was in that before he did his big leave, like you said. He was kind of stuck in the middle of the card. He got a good feud with John Cena on his way out. Then he stepped away for 2 years. And I think that was really good because when he came back, he had some excellent runs. But as he keeps coming back, his runs get less and less exciting. They seem to be less and less important. And
they're shorter and shorter.
Exactly.
Really.
They are shorter and shorter. At first he was coming back for a couple of years, then he's coming back for a couple months. Now it's down to maybe 2 months, 2 or 3 months. Yeah. So, like I said, I asked everyone who's listening, has Jericho's returns been less and less exciting? How do you feel about the next time he returns? Are you going to be excited? It's always excited that first surprise time he comes back. But look at his run as a whole. So let us know. Tweet us at Byte That Cast, or leave a comment if you're listening to this on YouTube. So moving on to a topic we love to cover on this show, and that is WWE 2K15. The trailer is out. It actually aired during Raw, I believe, during one of the commercial breaks.
Well, it debuted earlier in the day around lunchtime.
Yes, it did. We tweeted it out. Yes, I said it debuted yesterday or Monday. What?
You said it debuted. Never
When did
mind.
I say? What did I say?
On. You said Raw, and it hurt my feelings.
No, I said it
because you were wrong.
I said they aired it during Raw.
Oh,
we're getting
Whatever.
into a stupid argument.
We're fighting. The adults are fighting again.
We're like a bickering married couple right now. Anyway,
Exactly.
It came out yesterday.
No
They
homo.
also happened to air it during a Raw commercial break.
Thank you.
And let's just get the elephant out of the room, and that is Ba with the Ba
Really?
for the music
Out
choice.
of all the music that have come out in the last 15 years, you used Ba with the Ba, da bang, diggy, 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 said the Woody, and up jumped the Woogie.
That's not even how it's said, but I'm not even going to bother. Yes, exactly. Our middle school lives have come back to life in the form of WWE 2K15's trailer. Because
Yeah.
Ba with the Ba is trying to be relevant again. Yeah, this really put a damper on this trailer just because, there's songs from the early 2000s that are good, and then there's songs that really feel dated.
Then there's Kid Rock.
Hey, some of Kid Rock I think is still good. Devil Without a Cause is still a good album.
It's all
It is.
right.
But the point
It's all
is,
right at
this
best.
is one of those songs that just feels dated.
At the same time, though, it's kind of perfect for the WWE. Because think about they were making Gangnam Style jokes months and months
John
after
Cena
it
shirt
was
on
a
Raw
thing.
this week with the Keep Calm thing.
Yeah, exactly. So, in the way the WWE operates, using this song in 2014 is kind of poetic.
It is. I know they're behind the times with things like that, but this is like 15 years
It's
type
a little
old,
much.
At least Gangnam Style's only a couple of years old, and the Keep Calm thing's not that old.
Isn't that song from the on the same CD as American Badass?
No, it's not,
When the Undertaker,
actually.
It's not. Oh,
It was on the album before that.
Yes. Well, there you go.
So it's even older than that. Yes, the song that Undertaker, although I think Undertaker was using Rolling by WrestleMania 17.
No, but he was using American Badass when he
Yes.
first came back.
Which shows you that this song's even older than that. It's
Yeah.
probably 99. I don't even know.
And
2000.
That's our point.
Yeah.
I don't think we could hit that any better than that.
It was still the Attitude Era when that song came out, so that gives you a pretty good indication of how old it is. As far as I know, though, from a lot of sources, wrestlers and whatever, is Vince is obsessed with Kid Rock. So it's no surprise that he probably handpicked this song to be used for the trailer. So let's actually talk about.
So how was the trailer?
Let's talk about what we saw in the trailer after we're done talking about Kid Rock.
One of my favorite video game websites kind of has an ongoing joke. GiantBomb.com, if you don't know what it is. They actually have really good wrestling coverage as well. It's kind of weird. But they always have the joke of you can tell how good a video game's graphics are, like how far they progressed by hair in wrestling games. That's always the big, Trump statement. And they haven't progressed very much if you look at people like Daniel Bryan, who it doesn't look good at all. Triple H looks amazing this year, but no hair on him.
Yeah, I agree. I think, what'd you think of Kane with his hair?
I mean, the mask looked cool. It looked all leathery and neat, but once again, the hair was kind of
Yeah, I felt like I didn't have a chance to
black.
see it long enough to really gauge it. I'll have to watch the trailer again, kind of evaluate that. But yeah, there were some concerns about Daniel Bryan in this trailer. He was seen...
He looks like a caw.
Yes, he was seen from far away, so you really don't get a good indication of how good he looks. But that might have been done intentionally to try and mask how maybe not so good Daniel Bryan looks. Hopefully we'll get some better screenshots. Other things in the trailer that a little disappointing. Roman Reigns' entrance appears to be no different in animation, at least, than last year's Shield entrance, where he comes out of the wrong corner, just because they're trying to reuse some of the crowd entrances from like Edge and Christian from WWE 13. So.
Yeah.
It was a little disappointing. I mean, now you only got to make it for Roman Reigns. Just kind of at least shift that animation, a couple ways down to the other barricade where he actually comes out would be nice. Any other points you want to make on the trailer?
Not on the trailer, but one thing that I am super excited that has come out about 2K14 in the last couple days is that it's all but confirmed that there's going to be a PC version of the game. And that's exciting. Very exciting.
It is. And with the PC version, you have to think that this is going to be... Well, yes, mods.
All of the mods.
Before we jump into the mods, though, the control scheme is obviously going to be something of an issue where it's pretty much going to require a USB controller, I would think.
I wouldn't even call that an issue anymore, though, because there's plenty of games that just have a big screen that say, I highly recommend you play this with a controller. That already exists, and if that's one of those, then so be it. But games like Street Fighter and stuff exist and don't have that warning, so there's a way to do it.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I just feel like, there are some games you might be able to get away with Street Fighter on a keyboard, but I don't think there's any possible way to play this game well on a keyboard. So a controller is definitely going to be necessary, and they're not too bad. You can probably pick up a good one for about $30 at any type of store, or just order it online. So that's not a huge deal, but like you said, a PC version opens up a lot of opportunities. First of all, being that you don't have to buy a PlayStation 4 or Xbox One.
You hope, because we don't know what version
we don't know
of
what
it
version
is.
we're going to get. I would assume with the capabilities of a PC that they would have the PS4 Xbox One version and not the PS3 360 one, which seems to be, as time goes on and we learn more, significantly inferior. But like you said...
But what did you expect, really?
Like you said, with mods. Mods is a cool thing. That opens up a lot of opportunities. People mod things like No Mercy now, so who knows where we could go with a game like this. Alright, so before we wrap up this show, we did get another listener question. Remember, you can send your questions to us on Twitter at ByteThatCast. So Keith, take it away.
Yep, we sure did get a question, and it's from friend of the show, Vrilo Light. And his question is, if you were the head of a new wrestling promotion and your quote-unquote Ted Turner said you could sign 3 WWE wrestlers and 1 TNA wrestler of your choosing, regardless of cost, who would you pick to build your promotion around?
This is an interesting question. So
it's basically like, who are the stars these days? If you had to choose somebody that you see the future being, who would it be?
I'm going to kind of break the rules a bit and pick guys who maybe not necessarily are in the company but are recent enough. So for my promotion, I would pick from 3 WWE guys. I'm going to cheat and pick CM Punk as my top guy to to build the company around as the established star. One of the other people I would bring in would be Dean Ambrose. And then I would also bring in Sami Zayn from NXT. So you got one top guy who's established and then 2 younger guys to kind of bring up. And I'm realizing this is sounding like the smarkiest of smart picks.
Yep.
And my TNA guy that I would bring in, once again breaking the rules, would probably be... I was going to say AJ Styles, but I'm not so sure. I would take EC3. Definitely.
Yeah.
He is really, he is, completely turned himself into something amazing in TNA. The guy, WWE didn't think he had any potential, and he really, he's really impressed me, and I like what he's doing over there. So I'd take EC3.
Fair enough. See, I'm not going to cop out and choose people on the current rosters. My 3 from the WWE would be Brock Lesnar as the established guy, Dean Ambrose and Seth Rollins as the future, And my TNA guy, I agree with you, would be EC3. Just for the entertainment part of my company and the fact that he is just amazing. And he would cause trouble.
Damn it. I really like yours now. Brock Lesnar is actually a way better pick because, he's a mainstream name. That is a way better name to build your company around. Although CM Punk, because I'm cheating here, would be good too because there would be so much buzz for a CM Punk wrestling return. But I think Brock Lesnar probably is overall a better choice. So my hat's off to you on that. So Thank you, Brila Light, for that excellent question. As I said, at Byte That Cast, if you want to send us a question, and we will definitely answer it, so make sure to send that. All right, well, that's all we got for you guys this week. So once again, I want to thank you guys for listening, and it's time to get those awesome plugs out of the way. So as always, subscribe to our YouTube channel, youtube.com/Byte That Cast. We've got another Fight Night Round 4, I believe, coming up on Thursday, so make sure to check that out. Don't forget to also tweet at us at Byte That Cast. We tweet all week long, and hit that follow button as well. You can catch this podcast on YouTube, iTunes, and Stitcher. So depending on where you're listening, you can also listen either on YouTube or iTunes and Stitcher. I'm just repeating myself, but that doesn't matter. You guys know you can catch us in all those areas. So once again, thank you for listening, and we'll see you next week.